Today we'll be working in the workbook of Esther, and it's on the whole book of Esther. And we have already completed uh, the first 7 chapters. Basically, the story is that Queen Vashti was the first queen of King Xerxes, and she refused the king as far as going to his banquet with her crown on. Many people felt that it was actually to be naked with the crown on, and she refused. So they said they decreed that she could no longer be in front of the king. He needs a new queen, so he has a beauty pageant. Esther sweat up in the beauty pageant, and she becomes queen because she's the best of the lot. She happens to be Jewish and related to Mordecai, which is one of the royal people in the kingdom, but she's not to tell the king or anybody else that she is that. Then we get to the villain of the story, Haman. And Haman, because Mordecai will not bow down to him, decides to kill the whole Jewish race. Once chapter 4, once Esther realizes what's happened, she is going to, she tells the Jews and her attendants to all fast for 3 days, which is actually praying and for 3 days. Then she goes to see the king to request a banquet. She was worried about her life, but he was happy to see her. So she has the first banquet with her, the King Xerxes and Haman, and all she asks for in that banquet is for him to come again for the banquet the next day. And so during that time, the king can sleep. He finds out about the assassination plot that Mordecai discovered, but that Mordecai had never been rewarded for that. He's going to reward him. But meanwhile, King Haman comes in the morning. Haman is so conceited that when the king talks about a man that needs to be honored, he assumes it's himself. He offers the king great things to do to this person. Turns out to be Mordecai, and Haman has to do it all to Mordecai. So it's quite the twist of fate. So then just when he's through with all that and he's frustrated, here comes the second day for the banquet. And he goes to the banquet with the king. And at this point, Esther then makes it known that she is a Jew. And she wants the king to do something about the extermination of the Jews. And the enemy is sitting right next to him. So Haman is accused and sentenced at that point, and he's impaled on the paling pole he had set up for Mordecai. So now we get to the only problem that's really left at this point is the decree that cannot be revoked by the king for the Jews to be killed. So now we come to chapter 8. The king's edict on behalf of the Jews, Esther 8, 1 through 7. 17, right? 17, sorry. The same day, King Xerxes gave Queen Esther the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews. That same day, what happened this same day? This is the day that Haman got impaled due to his evil against the kingdom. What did King Xerxes give Queen Esther? The estate of Haman. Is there anyone at Haman's home that might be upset about this? Yes, Zeresh and all her family. What did Haman do personally that makes him an enemy of the Jews? He created the decree that would kill everybody. All the Jews, rather. He would kill all the Jews. And Mordecai came into the presence of the king, for Esther had told how he was related to her. The king took off his signet ring, which he had reclaimed from Haman, and presented it to Mordecai, and Esther appointed him over Haman's estate. Did the king know that Mordecai was a Jew? Yes, he did, remember? When he talked about it. Had the king known that Mordecai was related to Esther before this? No, he did not. What had the king reclaimed from Haman before he was killed? His signet ring. What did the king give to Mordecai? His signet ring. What is the importance of a signet ring? That is where he seals all the letters so people know it comes from the king. Who did Esther put in charge of Haman and now her estate? Mordecai. Is there a still problem not yet resolved? Do you remember what it is? The Jews are still going to be killed on the 12th of Adar. Esther again pleaded with the king, falling at his feet and weeping. She begged him to put an end to the evil plan of Haman the Agagite, which he had devised against the Jews. How does Esther express the intensity of her plea? She falls at his feet and weeps. What was her plea? Please put an end to the evil plan of Haman. Could the king revoke the edict that Haman created? No, he could not. What was the edict that Haman created again? That all the Jews would be exterminated by the 12th of Adar. When would, which I've answered for 5. When is it going to happen, the 12th of Adar? How do you think the king will fix this? I have no idea since he can't reverse the decree. I don't know. Maybe he makes a decree to reverse the other decree. I mean, I don't think he can do that. So I don't know. Then the king extended the golden scepter to Esther, and she arose and stood before him. If it pleases the king, she said, and if he regards me with favor and thinks it's the right thing to do, and if he's pleased with me, let an order be written overruling the dispatches that Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, devised and wrote to destroy the Jews in all the king's provinces. For how can I bear to see disaster fall on my people? How can I bear to see the destruction of my family? King Xerxes replied to Queen Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, because Haman attacked the Jews, I have given his estate to Esther, and they've impaled him on the pole he set up. Now write another decree in the king's name in behalf of the Jews, as seems best to you, and seal it with the king's signet ring, for no document written in the king's name and sealed with this ring can be revoked. For how can I bear to see disaster fall on my people? How can I bear to see the destruction of my people? Something like that. Every once in a while, I have to go to the answers rather than turning back. The disaster and the destruction of my family. Yeah. Okay. What are Mordecai and Esther to do to counter Haman's edict to write another decree? What will it be sealed with? The king's signet ring. What does the king say about a decree written in the king's name and sealed with the signet ring? Nothing that is sealed with his ring can be revoked. At once, royal secretaries were summoned on the 23rd day of the 3rd month, the month of Shivan. They wrote out all of Mordecai's orders to the Jews and to the satraps, governors, and nobles of the 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. These orders were written in the script of each province and the language of each people, and also to the Jews in their own script and language. Mordecai wrote in the name of King Xerxes, sealed the dispatches with the king's signet ring, and sent them by mounted couriers who rode fast horses, especially bred for the king. What was the day of Nisan, the first month that Haman set out his edict? It would have been the 13th day of Nisan. What was the day and month that Mordecai's edict went out? The 23rd day of Shivan. If the month had 30 days, let's figure out how long a Jews had a death sentence. Days remaining in Nisan would have been 12? No, 17. Sorry, 17 days in the month of Adar, 30 days in the month of Shivan that Mordecai's edict went out, 23rd. Total days Jews were in mourning would be 70 days. Now realize, of course, that their months really only have 28 days, but it was just a way to approximate this. So 68 to 70 days or so. The king's edict granted the Jews in every city the right to assemble and protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate the armed men of any nationality or province who might attack them and their men, women, and children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. The day appointed for the Jews to do this in all the provinces of King Xerxes was the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar. A copy of the text of the edict was to be signed as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality, so that the Jews could be ready on that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. The couriers riding the royal horses went out, spurred on by the king's command, and the edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. Now, just realize what's going to happen here is that they have the right to assemble and protect themselves. They cannot initiate fight, but if anybody tries to kill them, they can fight back, but they can't initiate the fight. There were three provisions to this edict. What are they? Um, the right to assemble and protect themselves, the right to destroy, kill, and annihilate any men who might attack them, and then to plunder the property of their enemies. What day was the Jews to do this? On the 13th day of the 12th month, so the 13th day of Adar. What day was the Jews? Okay. What day, according to Haman's edict, were the Jews to be killed? On the 13th day of Adar. So these both counteract each other. If you don't attack a Jew, you're not going to be killed. When Mordecai left the king's presence, he was wearing royal garments of blue and white, a large crown of gold, and a purple robe of fine linen. And the city of Susa held a joyous celebration. For the Jews, it was a time of happiness, joy, gladness, and honor. In every province and in every city to which the edict of the king came, there was joy and gladness among the Jews, with feasting and celebrating. And many people of other nationalities became Jews because the fear of the Jews had seized them. Describe the new clothes of Mordecai: royal garments of blue and white, large crown of gold, and purple robe of fine linen. What were the clothes of Mordecai the last time we saw him at the king's gate? Sackcloth. What are the Jews celebrating? The fact that there has been a counteraction to the decree to assassinate them. Because of fear of the Jews, what did many people of other nationalities do? They became Jews in fear of the Jews. You would think that the book of Esther would end here, but it doesn't. What is next? What happens on that faithful day of Adar? It's next. Read on. And so we come to the end of the chapter, and let's go ahead and do the crossword here. Okay, who got King Xerxes' signet ring? Mordecai. 5. What month did Mordecai's edict say the Jews can protect themselves? The month is Adar. What Jewish month did Mordecai write up and sent his edict? The month of Shivan. Who got Haman's estate? Esther. One down. Who rode royal horses to get the edict out to all the provinces? Couriers. What is the family line that Haman is a part of? Agagite. And who got impaled? Haman. So that's the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. Please stay tuned for the next chapter, which I think there's 2 chapters left in Esther. Hey, have a good day.